One of the things that you guys brought up on a previous call was there was a mention of that when you're jamming on the CRM that you hope people don't actually answer the phone. You hope you'll just end up leaving a voicemail.
You cover a lot more. All you're trying to do here is make a soft touch, right? You just want them to know that you're thinking about them. So hey, I just keep it simple. Hey, just reaching out. And John brought up earlier when I'd go night night or sleep tight. Because how the system worked there is you'd call someone, they wouldn't answer. If you left a voicemail message and they responded, you would get credit for the sale, regardless of where the sale channel came in. So you want something clever. You want something um, I don't want to say touching, but you want something that relates to them, something that they can, that they're experiencing. And because you're sitting in front of your contact manager, you have your notes, and it might be something as simple like, hey, Ian, this is Chuck over at First Financial, just touching base, man. Hope all is well. How's the new little one doing? Great. Catch you next time. And then immediately you associate what's very positive and happy in your life with me because I just called you and brought that up, right? So I always like to associate it with things that I know about the person, that is something that's positive in their world, because then you start associating that positivity with their experience with me, and just keep it simple. I love it because I mean, and we all like talking to people, and I get that, but I need to close business, right? We've all got bills to pay. We've got things we want to move on and grow our businesses. So I love voicemails. I could sit and leave voicemails all day because I know the outcome of that too, is
The
tremendous.
outcome is the income. Yeah.
The outcome is the income. Nicely put. So yeah, just leave something, relate it to something. Keep good notes. I know John's talked about this several times. In your contact manager, we have a spot that's for notes, that things that never change, like you know, uh, you love fishing, right? Okay, that could change, but things that are personal. Have a little section to know about your client, and just bring it up in the voicemail. Keep it
Yeah.
simple,
And
super
where,
simple.
yeah.
So
And as it relates to CRM, a lot of people put notes in history and it gets lost. Like most
never
CRMs, the
find it.
history is so long, you have to scan through. You don't have time for that. So we built a little section that's literally looks like a post-it note where we put
Yep.
notes. And it's this, Libby plays volleyball,
Mhm.
you love fishing, your son, da 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 da, your daughter, your whatever the case is. So when I leave the message, like Chuck said, hey, you know what, I whatever, you want to mention that, hey, I hope Libby's volleyball is going well. Just want to say hello. You know what, and move on. You don't have. We're not looking. Hey, call me back. Da da da. But contrast that to how people usually leave a message. Hey, this is John Eliason calling from ABC Company, and we've got 15% off. You've got
Yeah,
like
exactly.
delete.
Exactly.
I
And
don't
don't leave
leave it
long
alone.
voicemails. Don't
No.
leave long. No one likes long. Don't explain. Even, okay, let's say you're even in the throes of putting a deal together. Do not leave long voicemails. Hey, John, this is Chuck over First Financial. Had a couple things I needed to run by you. Give me a call. Don't go, hey, John, I was looking over this paperwork and I had a question because A, too much time. B, they're gonna hate you and they're just gonna delete it and they're not gonna call you because you kind of suck. And thirdly, there's no time. So what, I have to explain it four times? Just
Well, yeah.
keep
Then
it
if
simple.
they need to call back, now you have to talk about it again. You just
Yes.
wasted your time and their time, the most precious asset in the world.
Yes.
No, no, no. Just hey, give me a quick call.
Give me a quick
A
call.
guy like Chuck
Always.
said, whatever he said, it was perfect. Hey, a couple things. If you give me a quick call, and one of the other things as far as like leaving a message for somebody too. I get these from even people like attorneys or accountants who are supposed to be professionals. They go, hey,
Right.
give me a call tomorrow. When? When?
Oh yeah.
And then, okay, so you're setting me up to go into voicemail hell. Just
Yeah.
please, you want me to call you tomorrow? What? Give me a couple choices.
I just
So
had that. You nailed that. So on dealing with the banker that we're taking over their portfolio, we're doing their processing for them, and the guy emails me on a Thursday and he goes, "Hey Chuck, call me on Tuesday afternoon." Guess what happened when I called him? I bet you'll never guess.
yeah, I bet he didn't answer the phone.
He didn't answer his phone. He went right into voicemail. I'm like, dude, you told me to call you, and then it's just, and then it's like, ah. And then all of a sudden, now we got a vicious phone tag thing going. So now we're calling. It's like, look, think through this a little bit.
Yeah, look
Hey,
ahead.
yeah, look ahead.
You
So
can be an example too of what you should do. Like,
right,
when
yes,
I get that, I'll go, and then so they'll either leave me a voicemail saying, call me later, or if they send me an email that says, hey, call me on whatever, Tuesday afternoon, I'll go, well, what works better for you? I've got
right,
1:30 or 3:30. What's better for you? And then,
right,
so when they respond back, of course, you still might get tangled up in that, but at least you're being an example of what you should do.
right.
And hopefully
Right.
they start taking notice that you make more money than they do. They should. Yeah,
John,
I know.
just the value of time, right? It's just the
Yes,
value
the
of time.
value. Right. Yeah. What time? What time?
Mm.
And most people are really bad at that, and a few people in the world are really just do it right. Doesn't take much to do it right. It doesn't take much to do it wrong. But the end result is, you save a lot of time when you just do that simple little thing right. If
Yes.
you change that, try it.
So when somebody new is coming on to your guys' deal and they're building a massive referral network, what does that actually look like for them? Tell them, hey, you got to hit targeting 25 calls a day with people who are potential referrers. But what does that actually look like for somebody in that
Well,
position?
okay. So you mentioned calls, and so we don't track calls. You can, and maybe you can if you're new, right? Well, it takes me this many because there's ratios and all this stuff, and you get and your objective is to get better over time. So if I'm really good at building a massive referral network, and if I have a list of people that I'm talking to, I want to get 28 to 35 new. Uh, um, I want to have 28 to 35 meaningful conversations every day, which means, I got a hold of the right sort of person, and they understand what I do and the value, and we've, agreed to keep in contact. That's it. So 28 to 35 of those, and so that's a lot. And so
Sick.
if I don't count the number of calls that I make, because that's not what I'm counting. I'm counting the number of connections that I made, because you can make a gajillion calls. It's also, you can call it the quantity quality ratio, right? How many you call in and how many good ones do you get, or did you make? There's that if you're new. So you said when somebody comes on with us, yeah, we're going to see how many calls they made to get how many, because that tells us, because when you're new, this first call is really important. Are you calling the right people? I know you are, because we give you the people to call. And so what are you getting out of that? And then so we'll listen to those calls too, and we can go, oh, right here, because you hear what how we do things, right? And so we ask a lot of questions. We do what's called leading, which is you're just leading conversation by asking questions, is what that means. So we'll look at number of calls, but then later, like for myself, if I'm working on a new project, I'll look at the number of calls, go, okay, just to get a handle on it, how many calls it takes to get one of these things. um, and also what we find is that, so if you're building massive referral network, typically this is something that requires a little bit of patience, a little bit of trust, a little bit of faith, a little bit of belief that it's going to work, because it doesn't rain down a lot of business right away. You're planting seeds. It's like you're planting a crop. So when you plant a seed, it's in May, it's not going to be ready to harvest until August. So it takes time to grow. It takes time for the situation to come up where what they're sending you, the situation comes up. And so, but what you want to do is you want to plant the whole, you want to, how big do you want this farm to be? You're going to plant 3 seeds, or you're going to plant 3,000 seeds. And so, but what happens, like in what we found, is that give or take in the first 90 days, things start happening more at about 90 days, a little bit, and more and more and more and more. So what you want, do you want at the end of 90 days a really small field, or do you want as absolutely big as possible? What do you want?
Big as possible.
Big.
Big as possible. So when your first 90 days, you're hammering on this thing. So if we just use easy math, go back to 28 to 35 meaningful conversations, meaningful conversations. You made a connection with somebody. Yep, I understand that sound. Yep, let's keep in contact. Da 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 da. So let's just say 30 at 5 days, you've got 150. So you've got what 600 connections in a month, and at 3 months you've got 1,800. So I want to be on pace to be about 1,800 at the end of 90 days, because what happens is your number of connections slows down because you're taking inbound calls and dealing with sales, and you just can't deal with you can't go at the 30 new connections, every meaningful conversations and connections every day, because you got slowed down by writing business. So you really, those first 90 days are so important, to stay on it, and just, man, you want to make as many of those connections as, it's like both Chuck and I grew up in Iowa, and there's a saying, you go after like a biting sow. This is, you go after it like, and I always, another expression would be, you go after it like your life depends on it. And it really does. The style of the life that you're building really depends on how fast you get after this. We don't have forever, we have today. And so, all right, I want to do this today, and I want to keep score. So I'll have, we do keep score. You want to score yourself. You want to, what's the pace I'm going at? We use timers. Our CRM, we built a timer into it. So and we have click the dial. So click, brrr, and so immediately the timer starts. And for the first 3 minutes, the timer is green, and then it shifts to yellow, and then it's red. It's like, you're done. You've got to maintain your speed. Otherwise, you're not going to hit 30 today. And then, and also what happens too, you ever something come up and you can't work today, whether you're sick or somebody else is, you're out of town, your first 90 days, something like that's going to come up. So you want to bank as many contacts as you can, because shit happens, and you don't feel good. Your phone line goes down. You've got to take your kid to get a rabies shot. I don't know. Stuff comes up. Somebody dies. You got to go to a funeral. There's a birthday party. A million things. It's a busy, busy world. So you really want to get after it. If they string it out, it's like, it's this never. It's like, imagine an airplane too, taking off, and there's, at the end of the runway a little ways, there's trees. You can either run this thing into the trees, or you build up enough speed and height to clear the trees, and take off, and off to London you go. Or you can hang yourself up in the trees, and you go, I don't know what happened. I thought I was doing, no, you weren't going fast enough, honey. Didn't have enough loft. You gotta, so. And most people, frankly, get hung up in the trees, because they don't teach this stuff in the real world, in the rest of the world. This world is real too. We do this. Nobody teaches this except here. They always like pay for advertising, do this, go cold. It's like, oh my, but this takes somebody with a little ambition. This is under the umbrella of Freedom Challenge. It's a challenge to get free. If you do it how everybody shows you, you will not get free. So if you try to get free doing it the way everybody tells you, you won't get free. It doesn't matter how good you are at it, how much you polish it. It does not equal freedom. There's this path less traveled, is the specific path. We're not just doing things different to be different. We're doing things. This is the path to get free. So it's different. We build things a little bit differently. And when you have a massive referral network, then people are calling you. Doesn't matter where you are. You can be on the moon as long as you've got a good connection. You can be hiking on a mountain somewhere. You can be on a sailboat. You can be doing so. So if that's the style of life that you want, it's kind of hard to do that building it the old-fashioned, typical way, because you're supposed to be at one spot. You're supposed to work your local market. You're supposed to, whatever you're supposed to do, and it just never quite pans out the way. When people are younger, they go, "Oh man, I want to live this life," and then they go get a real job, and you get real mediocre, and you get real missing what matters most in life.